Hey man, nice camera.
Oh, thanks, man.
What kind is it?
It's a Leica M4.
Oh, cool. Is that filmed?
Yeah, it's film. It's 35 millimeter.
Wow, they still make that stuff, huh?
Yeah, they still do. Yeah, I develop it myself, actually, black and white.
Cool, enjoy, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, man. Take it easy. What you just witnessed was a dramatization of something that has been happening to me quite often lately. Hello, welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today I just wanted to do a little video talking about the attention I get because of my Leica M4. Now, I bought this back in June. I've been using it a lot. I've been trying to shoot film whenever I can. It's winter right now, and so it gets very cold, it gets very wet, very rainy, very dark. So I don't always get to take this out, but whenever I can, whenever it's dry, I do take out my Leica M4 and try to do film photography as often as possible. And when I first got this camera, I didn't notice as many people commenting on it. And when I used to use my Nikon FE2 more, it's like a black kind of quintessential film camera, in my opinion, the way it looks. It seemed like I got a lot more comments about the Nikon FE2. And when I got the Leica M4, it seemed as though people weren't noticing it as much. It seemed maybe just less intimidating, less obvious. And I thought that was a good thing, because the point of going out and taking pictures with this camera is to get candid pictures. I don't really want people to notice me. I don't necessarily want people to immediately spot this camera and then come up and try to talk to me about it when I'm trying to take pictures of them. But especially the last couple weeks, and I don't know why, I've been getting comments about this camera every single time I take it out to take pictures. Often multiple times in one day. There was a day, it was last weekend, where I had 6 different people come up to me and try to start talking to me about this camera. So it ranges from everywhere from just, hey, nice camera, or what kind of camera is that? Just quick little comments, or hey, is that a film camera? People are always very interested and excited if you have a film camera, it seems like. But especially last weekend, I had one guy who, I was in a bagel place and he was a couple of people ahead of me in line, and I could keep seeing him kind of looking back and giving me these looks when he was in line. And then I went and sat down at the counter and started eating my bagel, and I had laid out my camera on the counter in front of me, and he sat a seat away from me, but he kept kind of giving me this side eye. And he finally was like, hey, what kind of camera is that? And I said, oh, it's a Leica M4. He went, Leica. He had heard the name Leica, but he didn't exactly know what a Leica was. And he said, oh, so that's a film camera. I said, yeah, it's a film camera. And this was a young guy. He was probably in his early 20s, maybe college age. I live in a college town, Bellingham, Washington. We have Western Washington University here. And he was enthralled. And he just started asking me question after question after question. And it was actually a nice interaction. I got to talk to him quite a bit about light metering. He was very curious to know how I metered, because he had an old, I think he had an AE1, a Canon, or something similar to that. And it had a light meter and it had an aperture priority mode on the camera, and he always uses that. And he was curious how you would even use a camera that doesn't have a light meter or doesn't select your shutter speed for you. And I found myself trying to explain the basics of metering. He kind of knew the exposure triangle, but not completely. And I ended up just talking to him for about 45 minutes. I let him touch the camera. He was very excited about that. I let him look through the viewfinder, because he didn't really know the difference between an SLR viewfinder and a rangefinder viewfinder. I let him do the focus tab and everything. And it was a really fun, just nice experience, but it was 45 minutes of talking to this guy in a bagel shop. And then that very same day, as I was walking, I was on the sidewalk, and there was this, looked like a family coming towards me. So it looked like a mom and dad, 2 younger kids, and then an older couple who I was assuming were maybe grandparents or something. And as I was walking by, the oldest gentleman, he looked like he was maybe in his 70s, he got this huge grin on his face, and he stopped me, and his family had kind of moved forward a little bit, but he stopped me and he said, "You don't expect to see a Leica?" And he was very pleased, and I went, "Oh," and I went, "No, you know, not very often." And he said, "That's a film camera, a Leica film camera." And I said, yes, it's a Leica film camera. And he said, "Oh, when is it made? When was it made?" I said, "Oh, this is from 1970. And then he calls back to his family, who are kind of waiting, like, what is Grandpa doing here? He's like, "It's a Leica. It's from 1970. And they're like, "Okay, yeah." And I said, "Yeah, I developed my own film now." And he's like, "He develops his own film." And he was so excited about it. And I told him, you know, it's a mechanical camera. He was very pleased about that, and told him that it was made of brass, had brass gears and everything. He's like, "Yes, German engineering, very good." And I think he was German, and that's why he was so pleased, and he knew about Leicas and had some sort of national pride about it. But by the end of the interaction, he grabbed my hand and shook it vigorously and said, "Enjoy it in good health, sir." And then walked off. He's starting to sound more British now for some reason. I had comments, two really young guys. It's mostly young people who point out the camera and try to ask me about this camera. They're usually interested in whether or not it is a film camera. Two young guys were in line in front of me at another place at a coffee shop, and they started asking about the camera. They asked if it was film. I said yes, and then they asked if it printed the pictures for me. And I was like, "No, this is very old. This camera is 55 years old. It's 35 millimeter film." And they're like, 35 millimeter film. They didn't know what that was. I think in their mind, they were thinking it was some sort of Polaroid or an instant camera or something. The other day I was out on the street and I saw all these, again, young college-age people dressed in all sorts of strange costumes. There was like a cowboy. There was what looked like a burlesque performer. There was someone dressed like a Native American. There was someone dressed, it was kind of like, I don't know, what is that? What are they called? What's the band that did YMCA in the 70s? It was kind of like that, except they were all young people. And they were posing for pictures in the street. And so I thought, okay, this is interesting. I'll take some pictures. So I had my Leica and I started snapping a couple pictures of them. And I was mobbed immediately by all these kids. I say kids, but they were probably in their late teens, early 20s. And they were all very short too, which is interesting. I'm 6'2", but they were all much shorter than me. Boys and girls all around me. And they just started asking me question after question after question about my camera. What kind of camera? It's a film camera. And then the guy who was actually their photographer, who had, I think he had some sort of Sony A7 or something like that, he was asking me about it. Like, how do you get the film developed? And blah, blah, blah. They were so excited. And then at one point, I actually had to open up the bottom and put a new roll of film in here. And they were in awe. They were all just standing around oohing, like literally oohing and awing about me changing the film in my camera. They all wanted my Instagram. They were giving me their Instagram. They were shooting photographs for some sort of like student magazine that they run or something. But I've just had so many of these interactions. And like I said, some of them might just be, "Hey, nice camera," as I'm walking by, and I'll say, "Hey, thanks." But most people are interested to know whether or not it's film. When they find out that it's film, they're very excited about the fact that it's film. They always want to know how I get it developed, how expensive film is. It's just fascinating to me how much interest there is about vintage film cameras in general, and then specifically if people know what a Leica is, they're always very excited to see the Leica. And I started thinking about this, like, is this annoying? No. And I think it's actually a good opportunity to kind of spread the word. There's been this resurgence in film recently, maybe the last 10 years or so. And I think that now more than ever, and I might do a video on this as well, I think in an age where AI is becoming so prevalent, and when people can't trust what they see anymore, when they see an image online or they see a video online, it's getting harder and harder to tell whether or not it is real, whether or not it was actually just created by AI or if it was an actual photograph that someone took. But with film, you have the negative. So even if you take a picture, you scan the negative in, and then you manipulate that image digitally, you still can't really lie, because at the end of the day, You can prove whether or not a picture is real by whether there is a negative. And you have a negative in your archive. I have a folder where I keep all my negatives, so I can post pictures, I can do whatever I want with the pictures, and I can show somebody if they ask, well, is this real? This doesn't seem like this could have happened. Maybe something exciting is happening in the picture. I can always just take out that folder and show them the negative, and you know that it is real. And I think that's becoming more important to people, and it seems like especially younger people are really excited about analog technologies in general and film photography in particular. And like I said, in this age when AI is in danger of taking over photography, I have a feeling that maybe more people will start gravitating towards film, because it's really the only way you can show that the image you took was really the image you took. I'd love to start printing out actual enlargements in a darkroom. I think that would be kind of the ultimate. I'm still going to be taking digital pictures, obviously, but I'm really enjoying just the community that I've been able to build around just walking around with this simple, mechanical, beautiful little camera. It is interesting when people do know it's a Leica. They often don't know what a Leica M4 is. They'll have heard of an M6, they'll have heard of maybe some of the digital cameras, digital Leicas, but they often don't know the M4. But yeah, just occurred to me recently that pretty much every time I go out, I get comments about my Leica. And as much as I would like to be just kind of anonymous and have nobody notice me at all, it'd be great if I was invisible when I went out to take pictures. The interactions have been mostly quite pleasant. And it does make you feel as though, hey, I've socialized today when I went out to take pictures. So I think we will do a video soon about the relevance of film photography in a digital photography, AI-driven photography age. But until then, until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things. I'll see you later.